Welcome to the 2025 Officer Onboarding Training, an annual process for all incoming RSO Senior Executive Officers and Finance Officers. My name is Alyssa Rodriguez. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm going to be leading the session today. Today, we are going to talk about learning the basics of being an RSO leader. Then, I'm going to inform you of the resources available to your organization. I'm also going to update you on the policies that RSOs currently need to be working within, and I'll also provide clarity and guidance on your incoming role. I do want to shout out my fellow team member, Kayla Watson, Associate Director of the Center for Student Engagement. Both of us are always here to help any student organizations achieve whatever they might be hoping to achieve. And we are not alone in helping out. We are part of a bigger team over in the Center for Student Engagement, located on the third floor of the John Lewis Student Center. We also have 5 different areas of involvement in the Center for Student Engagement. There's civic engagement, fraternity and sorority life, student media, student organizations, and the John Lewis Student Leadership Pathways. And we also have a team of almost 20 student assistants who support RSO functions, and together we are all here to help you. So don't hesitate to lean on us. Today, during our training, we are going to be talking about a few different things. First, we will go over a quick introduction and overview to the annual registration process. Then we will do a full policy overview. Next, we'll do a finance and events overview, and we will finish on RSO management. Introduction and overview. What is annual registration? So what even is annual registration? Annual registration is the process of renewing your relationship with Georgia Tech. You basically tell us, hey, we're still here, we're still doing everything we're supposed to be, and we still want to keep doing that. So by doing annual registration, you just give us all the important information we need about your organization. We give you all the important information you need to thrive, and we also can help you manage risk and ensure compliance by making sure you're updated on all the policies you need to know and thinking in the way that a leader should be thinking. And if you didn't know already, being a registered student organization does come with a few benefits, luckily, and you can look at them on the screen below. But if you do not complete annual registration by the deadline, you could be at risk of losing these benefits. So it's extremely important that you're paying attention to the process and you're getting it done as soon as you can. Now, how soon should you be getting it done? Great question. Here's the timeline for annual registration in spring 2025. The annual registration process opens March 1st. It closes April 1st. That means you have 1 month to get your annual registration process complete. By April 10th, the Center for Student Engagement will be sending suspension emails out to all organizations that did not complete requirements on time. If you do not complete these requirements at time, you could be at risk of losing the benefits that we just looked at on the previous slide. Now, who do you need to pull in for this process? Not everyone in your organization needs to be involved in the annual registration process. We only require steps from 3 individuals in your group: the president or the senior executive officer, whatever you call them, the finance officer, the treasurer, etc., and then the advisor, your faculty of staff, Georgia Tech advisor. All 3 of these positions are going to have a step that they have to complete in order to get annual registration done for your organization. Now let's go through these steps one by one. The first step of annual registration is for both the finance officer and the president. The incoming finance officer and president are going to have to go to the officer onboarding training. Congrats, you're here, you're doing it. But you're not done yet. After you finish this training, at the end, you will receive a link to complete a follow-up form. This form will include some quiz questions and some important digital signatures that we need from you as organization leaders. Once you complete the training form, you will have officially completed the training requirement. We need both steps 1 and 2 completed by, again, the incoming finance officer and the incoming president. The next step after that is only for the incoming senior executive officer or the president. They are going to complete the annual registration form located in their Engage portal. I'll show you where that form is going to be in just a moment. It's important to note that this form is only going to be accessible to the incoming senior executive officer, so no other position will be allowed to select it, and you must be assigned this role in order to access it. Moving on to step 4, the advisor form. This form is for only your Georgia Tech faculty staff advisor. If you have multiple, they will complete this step as well. It has to be completed by the advisor directly. You cannot complete it on their behalf. The advisor form has important information about how an advisor can operate and important digital signatures that we need from them as well. This is one of the last steps that we need from you all in the annual registration process. But there are a few more things we need you to remember. Step number 5. After you complete the annual registration form, all officers are going to receive a terms and conditions notification. As the incoming president and finance officer, you are going to have to accept the terms and conditions of your role, agreeing to act as you should and complete the responsibilities that you have agreed to. Be sure to complete this as soon as you get the notification. If you don't, you'll just keep getting the notification week after week after week. And then finally, our last tip for completing annual registration is to check your progress. We have a tracking sheet that we update as we receive and track requirements at bit.ly/RSO 2025. That's all lowercase and it is case sensitive. So you can keep up with where we're at in the process the whole time. And if you ever have questions, you can always reach out to us at engage@godtech.edu. So let's check out where that annual registration form is. As I mentioned earlier, the annual registration form will only be accessible by the Senior Executive Officer. You'll navigate to your organization, you'll click the Manage Organization button, and you'll see a big blue button pop up that says Re-register this organization. This is where you will complete the annual registration form. Again, only the Senior Executive Officer will be able to see and complete this form. But just so you know, this is where it is, and this is how you find it. Once we approve your annual registration, you will get a notification to complete and accept the terms and conditions of your role. Be sure to go into Engage and accept the terms and conditions. We have step-by-step instructions on how you can do this. As you can see, once you accept the terms and conditions of your role, you will be officially acknowledging that you are the full president or incoming finance officer of your organization. Now, that was a lot, but I think you got it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at engage@godtech.edu. That team of 20 student assistants I mentioned, they are waiting by the email and the phones ready to help you out. You can also visit our website at studentengagement.godtech.edu, where we have a lot of helpful resources and information for you there. And if it's easier, just drop by the office on the third floor of the John Lewis Student Center. Policy overview: important policies that guide your RSO. Let's talk about institute policies. So the first three that we'll go over are the Student Code of Conduct, the Alcohol and Other Drugs Policy, and the Equal Opportunity, Non-Discrimination, and Anti-Harassment Policy. These are three policies that you are already held to as a student attending Georgia Tech, but it's important to know that you are also held to them as a student leader, and your student organization is held to them as well. You're supposed to be following the Student Code of Conduct at all times. In case you don't know, this code educates all members of the Georgia Tech community about the Institute's expectations and students' rights, and overall, it just creates a standard by which students are expected to conduct themselves. If you're not familiar with it already, definitely check out the policy library to learn more. The second one is alcohol and other drugs. As everyone knows, the legal drinking age in the state of Georgia is 21, and all students are prohibited from engaging in the unlawful use, possession, manufacturing, distribution, dispensation, and sale of any alcoholic beverages or controlled substances and other drugs. And lastly, but not least, the Equal Opportunity, Non-Discrimination, and Anti-Harassment Policy. This policy is actually listed in every single registered student organization's constitution. If you need a refresher, check out your constitution and review it there. It's important to know that the non-discrimination policy applies to all faculty, staff, students, and any other members of the Georgia Tech community, including affiliates, invitees, and guests. Other policies: youth programs, hazing, and contracts. For youth programs specifically, if you host any events with non-Georgia Tech minors under the age of 18, you may need to register your youth program. If you do not register your youth program in time, it could be subject to cancellation. If you need any help with this process, just reach out to our office and we'll help you out. Hazing is illegal and against Georgia Tech policy, regardless of the willingness of the participant. If you're not aware of what hazing is or what it could constitute, I encourage you to check out our hazing resource on our website to learn more about what these specific behaviors could look like and how you can best avoid them in your organization. You can also find our anonymous reporting form for hazing on our website as well. Contracts. It's important for all Georgia Tech students and advisor to know that you do not have authority to sign agreements on behalf of Georgia Tech. You can only be signing on behalf of yourself or your own organization. Should you choose to sign an agreement, know that you're signing on your own individual capacity and you could be personally held liable for failure to perform anything outlined in that agreement. Fronting, using external vendors, and food policy. These are all very popular event policies that I think all of you should know. At the top of the list, we have fronting. It's really important to know that RSOs and GT departments cannot reserve space or equipment for or on behalf of an off campus organization or for a personal event. So, if you're just having a birthday and you want to use your RSO status to get a room for a reduced cost, you cannot do that. That would be fronting. If an organization reached out to you and they said, "Hey, can you help us reserve this room? It's a lot more expensive than we do it." And you said, "Sure." You could be subject to additional charges for future reservations. You could also lose your reservation privileges by participating in fronting. So be sure that you are not doing this. Next, using external vendors. Now, you can decide to work with external vendors. However, it's important to know that if they do come on our campus, we need to be aware of them, and it's your responsibility to be having all of the proper documentation that they require, such as their business license. If you want to bring a vendor on campus to conduct business, we have to have their business license on file and a certificate of insurance. These documents need to be submitted at least 2 weeks in advance of any event that you have. Food policy. We have lots of organizations that use food at their events. And if you're ever purchasing food that's under $600, know that you can go wherever you'd like, pizza, whatever it is. But if you start to get over $600, restrictions then apply. Only tech catering can be used for events inside the Student Center, Exhibition Hall, and West Village if the event is going to cost over $600 for catering specifically. In rare cases, there are exemption forms, but it takes quite a lengthy process and it is up to the discretion of our catering team. So keep all these policies in mind when you're planning events. Alcohol policy, collecting cash, and bake sales. More events policies. Now, alcohol can be served at Georgia Tech events on campus, but you must have prior approval from the Office of the President or the designees. We have a specific form that you can fill out for this registration process, and if you ever need help completing this, just reach out to our office and we will give you the appropriate information. If you're ever collecting cash at a fundraising event or something your organization might be doing, know that it is required that 2 individuals from your organization be present and that the funds be stored in a covered container. Bake sales. Bake sales have a lot of regulations here at Georgia Tech, and it's important that you are aware of them. Things such as preparation, transportation, and allergies all need to be considered very thoroughly when participating in bake sales. Be sure to review all of the requirements that must be followed and reach out to us if you need any help. Displays and exhibits, chalking, flyers, placards, postcards, and signs. So this is more advertising, but still kind of event policies. Displays and exhibits. If you're ever hosting a tabling event or an event inside of a building that might require an interaction with the public or some sort of display or exhibit, it's important to know that you are responsible for that exhibit and you must be present at all time. A Georgia Tech student, faculty, or staff is going to have to be with your display, if you choose to have one, at all times, along with the representative of a co-sponsoring organization if it applies. Chalking. You can chalk on all campus sidewalks, but note that it is prohibited on buildings, stairways, walls, fountains, and any other surfaces that don't look designated for this purpose. And note that all chalking must be at least 20 feet from entryways of buildings and not under any overhead obstruction that would prevent rain from washing it away. Chalk sprays, markers, stencils, or paint of any kind are not permitted. Other than that, chalking is a great way to get the word out. Flyers, placards, postcards, and signs should only be posted on public bulletin boards or other locations where it's clearly designated for posting. Don't tape them on doors, windows, walls, trees. I've seen sometimes hanging from light fixtures. Just make sure that you stick to bulletin boards or areas that just look like there's lots of other flyers there as well. If you want to use a specific area that doesn't look like it's for flyers, make sure you get written permission of the person who oversees the area. Now, you can read more about all of these policies in depth and learn more about them in the policy library. I recommend every student organization leader look at the policy library and be aware of all of the different policies that you should be working within. Now, a lot of people ask me, Alyssa, what do we do if someone isn't following these policies that we've talked about? Well, that's why we have the Office of Student Integrity. The Office of Student Integrity exists to investigate different complaints against students for violations of the Student Code of Conduct or different policies that we might have just listed as well. Any student may file a complaint against a student for violation of the Student Code of Conduct or other policies we may have listed. The complaint should be sent to OSI using the non-academic conduct referral form. Complaints can also be generated from various departments and offices. The departments include the Georgia Tech Police Department, the Office of Information Technology, Housing, and the Office of Transportation and Parking. In cases where students are found responsible for non academic conduct, students can be given sanctions, and these sanctions can affect your disciplinary status. So it's important that we are all aware and following policies as we should be doing. It is important to note that the role of a student leader is not to enforce disciplinary actions beyond your organization's bylaws. Always escalate this to Student Life or the Office of Student Integrity. It is not the role of a student leader to investigate misconduct, whether that be academic dishonesty, any ethical violations, anything like that. Immediately refer these situations to the Office of Student Integrity as well. The role of a student leader is not to handle any legal, safety, or discrimination concerns independently. Please refer this to the Office of Title IX, the Georgia Tech Police Department, or the Dean of Students. And lastly, it is not the role of a student leader to make unilateral decisions on high risk activities. We are here to help you. Please always feel free to reach out to us and get approval from either us or your advisor on high risk things you might be doing to make sure that you're following all the rules in advance. Event planning, the keys to successful initiatives. Let's talk about planning events and reserving space. The way to get room reservation access as an RSO leader at Georgia Tech is to assign the room reservation access permission to your leadership team in your Engage portal. It can sometimes take 1 to 2 days to update. And if you need any help updating your roster, just reach out to us and let us know. 2, after you have your room reservation access, you will have expanded options on our GT Events system. GT Events is our campus event management system, or sometimes called EMS. You'll log in with your Georgia Tech credentials, and you'll see a whole bunch of new options for where you can reserve space. It's important to know that most spaces open a year in advance for booking, so be very proactive in getting your reservations out there as spaces fill up very quick. Now, you've got your room reservation access, you've got your room booked. Let's start advertising the event. I always tell people the first step should be adding the event on their Engage portal. When you add your event on Engage, there's a few bonuses that help you out. Not only does it let all your members and all of the Engage users know that your event's going on, it also gives you the automatic option to include your event in the campus calendar, weekly digest, and daily digest. Yeah, that's a pro tip. And then lastly, 4, track attendance. It's important to be tracking all of the success of your initiatives. Take attendance at your event and upload it in Engage. Engage gives multiple ways for you to track attendance. Whether it be swiping buzz cards or taking a physical list yourself, we're happy to help. Drop by the Center for Student Engagement to learn more about tracking attendance or to pick up a buzz card scanner. We're happy to share. Now, Engage isn't the only place for advertising. Advertising opportunities are abundant here at Tech, and honestly, a lot of them are cheaper or free for many of you all as student organizations. So, check out some of these options that a lot of people don't always think about. We have Campus Recreation Center advertising, they have digital signs within the building. The Student and Campus Event Centers, I love to always tell people about their advertising locations. They have digital signs, banner displays, flyers, tablings, lots of different options. Our student newspaper, The Technique, offers different advertising opportunities in there. Our transit vehicles used to offer advertising opportunities. I'm not sure if they're currently doing this, but maybe keep an eye out for in the future. And then rec radio advertising as well. They do offer program underwriting and PSAs. So go ahead and scan this QR code if you're interested in learning a little bit more about these different advertising locations. And as I just shouted out, the Student Center has a lot of really amazing resources as well, whether it be flyer displays, plasma promotions, tabling in their various table spaces. Feel free to check out their website and learn more about what they offer for student organizations, because there are a lot of ways to get the word out about your group. And look, I keep plugging these campus digital signs, but a lot of people don't know that RSOs have such wide access to a lot of different buildings. A lot of groups think, oh, I can only be in the student center. No, all of these buildings listed on this screen are options for you to put your message out there. So if you think it might be better for me to tailor my message specifically to the College of Business or specifically to Mason, then do that. Scan the QR code to learn more about how you can submit digital signage to each of these different areas. And last but not least, I have to mention risk again. When you're planning events, All of them are going to have some element of risk. So, as an event planner, it's on you to diligently identify these risks and minimize them, okay? Risk can be defined as a lot of things, but we'll say the potential loss, damage, or danger associated with an event, activity, or decision made by the organization. Thorough planning and following established risk management guidelines are the most effective means to reduce risk of harm or litigation. So make sure you are taking extreme care when planning high risk events for your members and assessing the different things that might could occur. If you ever want to pull us in, please, we encourage you to. We're happy to help you think through this and create a plan going forward that will minimize risk of harm. RSO finances, requesting and managing RSO funds. Let's talk about funding opportunities. As a registered student organization, you have quite a few different funding opportunities available to you. However, with so many different options, things can get a little bit confusing. So I'm going to break it down below so you can learn a little bit more about your different options. At the top, we have two that I want to talk about together: SGA bills and SGA budgets. These are some of the most commonly thought about processes for applying for funding for student organizations. SGA bills is a rolling process, very popular. You can apply to it as you need. But SGA also offers a budget process. A budget process is a little different. This one is submitted a year in advance each fall, and you tell SGA a year in advance, this is what I am going to need for next year. Usually, organizations use this if they know they're going to have recurring events. Like, let's say you have a big conference every year and you know exactly how much money you need to fund it. This would be a great example of when you should use an SGA budget. If you know of your SGA, if you know of your expenses in advance, consider submitting an SGA budget in the fall. Both SGA bills and budgets can be applied to via Engage Finances. You do have to be assigned the role of the finance officer in order to access them. Moving on to Parents Fund. Parents Fund is a semesterly application that usually opens in the beginning of the semester and closes about 2 to 3 weeks after the semester starts. You can also apply for this one via Engage. This is a selective based fund from our Parents Board, and they have their own set of standards, as does SGA in all of the different areas that we mentioned. Next up is Buzz Funds. Buzz Funds is rolling and they do monthly applications. They have their own separate request form, so you're not going to see Buzz Funds on Engage, so make sure you check out their website directly. Buzz Funds is specifically for organization events that are open to the entire Georgia Tech community. So if you have any events like that, consider Buzz Funds. Class of 1981 and Move Service Grant. Now, these two funds are a bit different. These are specifically for service-based initiatives that organizations are hosting. And these fund the initiative as a whole, not budget line specific. So if you have an event going on, maybe consider Class of 1981 or the Move Service Grant. They also offer rolling applications, and you can apply for them on Engage. And last but certainly not least, we have the Student Foundation Grant, who gives out almost $40,000 to organizations every year. Their applications open semesterly, similar to Parents Fund. They open in the beginning of the year and they close a few weeks after. The Student Foundation Grant is able to be applied for via Engage Finances as well. Now, that was a lot, and I'm sure there's no way you'll remember all that. And that's why we have this awesome website where all of these different funding sources that I just mentioned are talked about a lot more in depth. I also have their specific websites link, contact information, and just general information about allocations that you can learn. This website is a great resource for creating a finance plan for the upcoming year. And how do you get to these different funding applications we're mentioning? That's a great question. First, you navigate to your organization's Engage page and you have to manage the organization. Remember to be assigned the role of the finance officer. You'll head to the finance tool at the very bottom of your tools, and then you'll hit the blue Create Request button. You'll submit budget request and you'll see all of the different options that you have available to you at that time. This is where you can apply for most of the funding processes that we talked about. But don't forget, there are a few that are not in this area. Using your accountant. As a registered student organization, you are assigned a designated accountant in our student organization finance office. Organization leaders are assigned the accountant based on their organization name. Do not consider Yellow Jacket or Georgia Tech in your organization name. And if you're a sports club, just start with the sport itself. Down here, you can see all of the different people that you should be reaching out to according to what organization you're a part of. Don't hesitate to pull in these staff members and ask them for help when you need it. Now, what are some things they can help you with? For example, opening a bank account. Now, you have the option to open an on campus bank account, which our SOFO accountants can help with. You also have the option to open an off campus bank account, which we would not be helping you with. If you open an on campus bank account, know that it's going to be the typical custodial account, foundation account setup that we have here at Georgia Tech. You're going to have tax free purchases, purchase protection, because all of your purchases will be made through Georgia Tech, contract support for that same reason, automatic transition for all your accounts, as it'll be through Georgia Tech as well, donor friendly, and P card purchase friendly as well. Now, P card purchases can also be a downside depending on who you ask, as you will not be able to make the purchase directly. It needs to be made from someone else. So, if you use an on campus bank account, you're typically going to be using reimbursement based processes a lot more often. This is why some people consider off campus bank accounts, having direct access to their organization's money through something like a debit card. This would be your more standard checking and savings account that you hear about, just like any normal person might have. If you do choose to open an off campus account, note this is at your own risk and it is a higher risk because doing this will require a tax ID or an EIN, which will need to be tied to a member's social security number, and it will need to be transferred every year. That can make the transition a bit more difficult, having to involve the IRS and all. So if you do choose to do an off-campus bank account, or if you already have one, please keep these things in mind. Please be transitioning appropriately. And to make it easy, just consider an on-campus bank account as well, and we're happy to help you with that. Now, I mentioned a custodial account and a foundation account when I talked about the on campus account section. What exactly did I mean from that? That's a great question. So, a custodial account is funds that organizations collect from membership dues, maybe ticket sales, you did some fundraising. Those are all deposited into your custodial account. Think of that like your typical checking account. That's where your direct deposit goes. Now, the foundation account is a little different. Foundation account is for different kinds of funds. These funds are specifically received from institute sponsorships, maybe corporate or private donations. These get deposited to your foundation account to ensure that gift receipts are issued. Now, there's a bit of a difference between how the money within these two different accounts can be spent. Custodial accounts are managed by Georgia Tech, which means that they are state funds. State funds have specific regulations that must be followed for how the money is spent. That means the money in your custodial account may have more strict guidelines. Money in your foundation account is managed by the Georgia Tech Foundation, which is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. Since the money is not technically state funds, the limitations are a bit different, though there are still some. Having this information can help organization leaders know when to use their money in strategic ways. Now, finances can be really confusing. By far, one of the hardest parts of being a registered student organization leader, I think, is managing all of these finance options that we have. So please pull us in because we're happy to help. Whether it's the Student Organization Finance Office, whether it's the SGA VP of Finance or the Joint Finance Committee, or the Center for Student Engagement directly, please call on us, ask us for help. It is not as intuitive as everyone acts like it is. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. We are here to help and get you the money you deserve. RSO Management. New to your role? We got you. So, what is the role of a student leader? If you're looking for some general guidance on what am I even supposed to be doing here? Well, first, I'm going to tell you to check out your Constitution. But then I'll tell you to just keep some general things in mind as well. A few things I have listed on the screen are really important for all of our student leaders to know. We want you to be thinking about the following things when operating your organization. One, promoting engagement and fostering an inclusive environment. Two, ensuring compliance with Georgia Tech policies. Three, facilitating communication with relevant campus offices. Four, supporting your members with resources for success. Five, planning and executing events aligned with goals and policies. And six, collaborating with student leaders and campus departments. And we are here to help you do all of these things. You're not alone. So, as this is what we expect you to ask us for help as well. Let's talk about how you can stay updated as a leader in your organization because it's super important that you know what's going on now that you oversee an entire org. So, here are a few of my favorite ways that you can stay involved in what's going on. First up is the RSO newsletter. The RSO newsletter provides key information for all of our student organization leaders on updates, events, news announcements, any important things that are happening. Anyone tagged and engaged as the president and finance officer will receive the newsletter automatically. And any additional officer can be added to the list by using the org newsletter recipient position in your Engage roster. Next up is the Weekly Digest. The Weekly Digest is a newsletter distributed to all students each Monday during the fall and spring semesters. Did you know that student organizations can directly promote their events in the Weekly Digest by adding them to Engage? I mentioned earlier, but it's definitely a pro tip in getting the word out about your event immediately. Next is Engage, of course. The Engage platform not only supports you in managing your organizations, but it also connects you all to involvement opportunities at Georgia Tech. So we're going to be posting announcements, updates, things that are happening on our Engage homepage and in the CSC's portals news. So keep an eye out, look for news for us, look for posts, look for trainings. That's where we're going to be posting them. And then last but not least, of course, our website. Our website has tons of important resources and services that people overlook. I am always sending links to our website when people are asking me for resources. So check it out. There's a lot of good stuff there. I think if you have these 4 resources in mind, you will be in a good spot for staying updated as a registered student organization leader. One of the most important parts of managing your organization is updating your roster. This is how the public knows who to contact in your registered student organization, and keeping your roster up to date is going to help with record keeping, funding requests, and organization communications. I have a QR code here that'll take you to a direct tutorial on how you can update yours, but make sure in the least you are always updating your required officer positions of senior executive officer, finance officer, and advisor to be current, and you're always removing members that are no longer a part of your organization. It's important that when people are reaching out and looking for you all, that we're able to give them the right information. So help us do this by keeping your roster updated and current. And if you're looking for resources on how to do this, we have a ton. Head over to our website, like I mentioned earlier, and check out our Using Engage at GT book. We have a lot of different pages in here where you can learn more about different resources, different ways to utilize Engage, and how to make sense of this new platform that you're going to be overseeing as an organization leader. Officer checklist. New to your role? We got you covered. As you can hear, being a student organization leader comes with a lot of important information. That's why we've created an officer checklist to at least get you started. If you complete this entire checklist, we guarantee you will in the least be starting your year off right and with the appropriate information. So let's talk about it. First, meet with your faculty staff advisor, okay? Make sure you know who they are, check your Engage roster, or email us if you need any help in identifying who they are. It's important to know your advisors so they can help you manage all of those policies we mentioned earlier and be a good resource for you throughout the year. Next, review your organization's constitution and officer duties. All organization constitutions can be found in your Engage portal in the document section. Go find your organization constitution if you haven't seen it already and read over it so that you're familiar of what standards you're being held to. Next, make sure your officers are listed in your Engage roster. I already talked about this, friends, but this is very important. We use the roster to send out important information. So if this list isn't updated, you might miss out. Please keep it updated. It is crucial. Then you're going to add room reservation access for any officers who can book space on behalf of your RSO. Now, don't go too wild. Let's keep the number a little conservative to make sure you don't have too many people booking space on behalf of your organization. And remember, you visit your Engage roster to do this. We have a full resource on our website to help you out. Next, check in on your organization's finances by meeting with your designated accountant in the Student Organization Finance Office. This one's for you, finance officers. Head back to the slide where I talked about who your assigned accountant was and write down their name. Then go find their email and send them a message to set up a meeting, or drop by their office and introduce yourself so you can learn more about your organization's finances before the year begins. Next, if you already know of any events or programs you're going to be having, add them to Engage. Go ahead and start easily promoting them across campus in the weekly digest, daily digest, and beyond. And then last but not least, be sure to RSVP for any student leadership opportunities like the Student Org Fair and the Big Buzz. You can always keep an eye out for these on our Engage portal. They'll all be posted there. And last but not least, guys, take it seriously. The role of a student organization leader is very important, and a lot of you are creating core memories for many of our students here at Georgia Tech. Please respect the importance of your role and responsibilities, uphold Georgia Tech policies and standards, consider the impact of your decisions on others in the community, prioritize safety, inclusion, and well-being at all times, and engage fully in your leadership role to create positive change. And if you ever need help, ask us, please reach out. We are here to help, whether you just drop by the Center for Student Engagement or you schedule an RSO consultation with us at bit.ly/RSO team. We are happy to help. So please don't forget that I, Alyssa, am here as a resource for you. That completes the officer onboarding training. Before we go, don't forget that you must complete the post-training form to get credit for attending this training. Follow the link displayed on your screen to complete a follow-up form that's going to ask you for some additional information to confirm your attendance. If you have any trouble accessing this link, please let us know immediately at engage@godtech.edu. Thank you.